We have seen victory, but can we say it is final? Spirits do not die like men. What if Agbaroro returns? What if this peace is only for a season? What if we have merely wounded the beast? Will it not gather strength again in the hidden places of the earth? The missionary was sent by God, no doubt. But we must remain vigilant. If that spirit ever regains power, what shall we do then? Where shall we hide? These were the concerns voiced by the elders just before Agbokoko's powerful rebuke. I see a new beginning, I see hope, growth and development. A place once called no place to hide will now be known as a place to shine. Once haunted by fear and swallowed by darkness, the village of Kadorama had been a place of silence, where even the strong dared not speak of the evil that ruled the night. But everything changed the day Boma, a woman of fierce courage, stood face to face with the spirit Agbaroro. Though it almost cost her life, her stand sparked a movement. And when Pastor Paul James, guided by divine revelation, entered that cursed jungle with nothing but a Bible and unshakable faith, the stronghold of the ancient demon was shattered. Now, the smoke of deliverance had cleared, and the light of a new dawn was rising. In the days following the fall of Agbaroro, a peaceful stillness hovered over Kadorama. Children laughed in places where cries once echoed. Women sang hymns where chants of fear once reigned. The shrine of Agbaroro, once a place of blood and sacrifice, now stood redeemed. After Agbaroro's defeat, Pastor Paul James stood and declared, "Upon this rock, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it, says the Lord." That marked the beginning of the Kadorama Central Church of God, KCCG. The story of Kadorama's spiritual liberation spread rapidly, reaching neighboring villages and even towns many miles away. Pilgrims, preachers, and seekers of truth arrived in droves, drawn by the tale of a village once lost, now found. The church became more than a place of worship, it became the heartbeat of the community. Pastor Paul organized prayer meetings, healing services, and teachings that stirred the soul. The once fearful villagers were now confident believers. The church quickly expanded its role, opening schools where adults, young men, and women from Kadorama, like Boma and Tamuno, received free education, establishing a free clinic, and launching agricultural programs that taught modern farming techniques and sustainability. Faith was no longer just preached, it was lived out through action and service. King Agbokoba, once a cautious observer, now sat in the front row of every service, hands lifted in worship, declaring, "No king rules unless God allows it. I now serve the King of Kings." As the spiritual roots deepened, the natural blessings of Kadorama were uncovered. A government survey team, hearing tales of Kadorama's rebirth, arrived, and what they found astonished them. Kadorama sat atop the largest crude oil deposit in the region. And beneath its rich soil also thrived agriculture, cassava, beans, plantains, snails, rubber, and goats in abundance. In no time, paved roads replaced muddy tracks. Clean water systems, health centers, and electricity followed. The government poured in funds, NGOs followed, and businesses opened shops and trading centers. From a forgotten outpost, Kadorama had become a hub of wealth, faith, and innovation. But through it all, The people never forgot who had saved them first, God. Kadorama had bloomed into a beacon of peace, industry, and revival. But in a quiet corner of the village, the oldest and most revered woman, Agbaroro, now walked with more silence than speech. Her bones were frail, but her eyes still glowed with insight. At 91 years old, the village matriarch closed her eyes one final time in her sleep. She didn't struggle. She just smiled, said the young girl who found her. Pastor Paul James and Boma were the first to arrive at her residence. Farewell, Mama Agbaroro. May your soul rest in peace, Paul whispered. Boma wept at the foot of her resting bed, whispering, "You saw this all before we did. You believed when we feared." News of her passing swept through Kadorama like a gentle storm. Flags flew at half-mast. Bells tolled. The village declared a 7-day period of mourning. Every family lit a lamp in Agbaroro's memory. At her state burial, thousands gathered in solemn reverence. Her body was placed in a handcrafted wooden casket and laid at the village field. The Kadorama choir sang not songs of sorrow, but hymns of honor and celebration. "We do not mourn as those without hope," Pastor Paul preached. Mama Agbaroro did not die, she went home. In his eulogy, King Agbaroro declared, "She saw this day before we did. And she told us, Kadorama will shine again." Today, we are her prophecy fulfilled. A marble statue of Agbaroro was commissioned and placed at the village square. Beneath it, etched in gold, were her final prophetic words, "Kadorama, a place to shine." On a bright and cloudless morning, the village bells rang, not in alarm, but in celebration. It was the wedding day of Pastor Paul James and Boma, two souls whose journey through darkness had brought light to an entire nation. The church was beautifully decorated. Children dressed in colorful traditional attire danced joyfully. The villagers gathered, their hearts filled with joy and reverence. As Boma walked down the aisle, congregation stood in awe. She wore a flowing white wedding gown, radiant and graceful. Pastor Paul, standing at the altar, held back tears. "This union is a symbol," he preached during the ceremony, "that what God restores, He also establishes. From ashes, He builds beauty." Vows were exchanged. Songs filled the air, as if God Himself had stamped the moment with peace. After the ceremony, Boma and her husband, Pastor James, posed for photographs. Friends, relatives, and invited guests all took pictures with the new couple. Tamuno was overwhelmed with joy, his face beaming with pride. That evening, the entire village feasted. Fireworks lit up the night sky. It was not just a wedding, it was the beginning of a new era for Kadorama. 3 years later, Tamuno emerged, not just as a survivor of dark days, but as a symbol of hope and purpose. He didn't enter politics for power or wealth, but from a deep burden to serve his people and ensure no child grew up in fear or despair like he once did. His transformation from a victim of demonic possession to a man of vision, discipline, and faith touched hearts far and wide. Determined to lead with integrity, Tamuno founded the Kadorama Labour Party, KLP, a grassroots political movement built on the principles of justice, transparency, and community development. It was the first of its kind in the eastern region, a party driven by ordinary people, village elders, youth groups, and faith-based leaders. Its motto was simple yet profound: service with sacrifice. Tamuno organized extensive campaigns across villages, towns, and remote areas. He listened to the people's cries and promised to build schools, roads, create jobs for the youths. His words were not laced with political cliches but with truth and lived experience. Everywhere he went, people gathered in thousands to hear him. He held rallies filled with music, testimonies, and prayers. Community meetings turned into revival grounds. Youths carried his message on radios, elders shared stories of his childhood resilience, and mothers wept as they prayed for his success. Tamuno's humility and vision won the hearts of the people. On election day, the Kadorama Labour Party, KLP, swept the polls in a landslide victory that shocked the ruling elite at the center. From the humble village of Kadorama, a governor was born. After Tamuno was declared governor, he poured himself into what he called the Kadorama Renaissance Project, a blueprint to ensure that no village in the region would ever remain forgotten or forsaken again. He believed that deliverance must not only be spiritual, but also practical. Under his leadership, youth empowerment became the heartbeat of his administration. On agricultural transformation, thousands of hectares of land were cleared and converted into modern, mechanized farms. Cooperative farming schemes gave young people access to land, seedlings, and tools. Agro-processing centers were established to convert raw materials into finished goods, cassava into flour, fruits into juice, and palm into oil for export. If our hands can feed us, we will never bow again, Tamuno declared. On infrastructure and roads, he connected 23 rural communities to Kadorama with smooth, dual-lane roads. Solar-powered streetlights lit up paths where darkness once ruled. On sports and youth development, Tamuno commissioned the Kadorama Unity Stadium, a 50,000-seat multipurpose arena, complete with a sports academy for training in athletics, football, and martial arts. Annual youth tournaments and talent hunts drew scouts from across Africa. Let the world know that champions can come from villages too, he declared. On skill acquisition and innovation hubs, vocational centers were established in every local government area (LGA), offering training in ICT and coding, tailoring and fashion designing, carpentry and electrical engineering, cinematography and digital storytelling. Kadorama became the first village in the region to host a tech innovation hub powered by solar energy, a symbol of forward thinking in a once forgotten land. On markets and trade, Tamuno built modern marketplaces across the region, each equipped with storage facilities, reliable power supply, clean toilets, and digital transaction systems. Trade centers were launched to promote the export of locally made goods, connecting rural producers to global markets. The world won't pity us, it will partner with us, Tamuno declared. On crude oil development, Governor Tamuno's vision for Kadorama went beyond roads, schools, and skills. His eyes were set on energy independence and resource-driven development. Kadorama's land was rich in crude oil. Shortly after assuming office, Governor Tamuno established the Kadorama Energy and Resources Commission, KERC, tasked with managing exploration, refining, and community development tied to oil wealth. Instead of allowing foreign companies to drain their resources without return, Tamuno negotiated community-centered oil contracts that guaranteed 10% of all profits reinvested into local education and healthcare, job opportunities for thousands of local youths, environmental safeguards to protect farmlands and water. Local refineries were built on the outskirts of Kadorama using clean and modern technology. 35 modern filling stations were built, each equipped with solar-powered lighting and safe storage. Women were trained and empowered to run community fuel cooperatives. Fuel prices were regulated to remain affordable for locals. Electric power generators and solar-powered fuel pumps were introduced in filling stations to reduce dependency on diesel. No village, no farm, no family should walk 10 kilometers for fuel again, Tamuno said at the commissioning of the first community-run filling station in Kadorama. These stations didn't just serve cars, they became centers for employment, commerce, and community gathering. Today, Kadorama is a thriving model city. Tourists from all over come to visit the jungle where Agbaroro once ruled, now preserved as a peace memorial forest. The once feared cave is now a chapel of prayer, where candles burn in honor of deliverance. Each year, the Kadorama Faith Festival draws thousands, celebrating music, culture, and testimonies. The village that once hid from the world now hosts it. Paul and Boma, now older with 2 children, continue to pastor the church. Their children help lead missions across Africa. As the sun sets over the village now turned modern city, one can hear joyful songs echoing through the hills, the rivers, the valleys, and all over the land. Years rolled by, and the once forgotten village of Kadorama had become a mega city, a shining jewel in the eastern region. Skyscrapers rose where mud huts once stood. Highways stretched across the land and the air buzzed with the sound of progress. Boma and Pastor Paul James built more than a church, they built a home filled with love and laughter. The Lord blessed them with 2 lovely children, a bright daughter named Grace, and a handsome son named David. Their home became a haven for villagers seeking counsel, young couples in need of guidance, and children who longed for fatherly love. Paul continued leading Kadorama Central Church of God, KCCG, which had grown into a province having other mega parishes also in Kadorama city. Meanwhile, Governor Tamuno, now a respected leader across the nation, found love with Ella, a lawyer who had come to Kadorama during a mission trip. Their wedding drew dignitaries, villagers, and even international guests. Together, they were blessed with a son, whom they named Paul, in honor of the missionary who had once risked his life to deliver their land. Tamuno was not just a governor, he was a visionary leader. Under his leadership, Kadorama transformed into a mega city. Highways and rail lines connected Kadorama to the rest of the country. International airports and seaports turned the city into a hub of trade and travel. Mega schools and universities educated thousands of youths, producing leaders and innovators. High-tech hospitals provided world-class healthcare, ending the days of medical neglect. Cultural centers and museums preserve the history of the Agbaroro era and the story of deliverance, ensuring future generations never forgot their roots. From the ashes of a haunted past, Kadorama has risen. A land once silenced by fear now echoes with song, commerce, and courage. Because one woman dared to seek her brother. Because one preacher obeyed the call. because one elder believed in the light, and because one boy, once possessed, became a governor. Kadorama is no longer a place to hide. It is a place to build, a place to shine, a place where faith became the foundation of greatness. King Agbaroro, now aged but still strong in spirit, was officially recognized as a first-class traditional ruler by the national government. His royal stool was enshrined in gold-trimmed marble, and a statue was raised beside the others, honoring his humility, leadership, and willingness to embrace change. Every year, thousands of people travel to Kadorama, now a transformed miracle city, to witness its wonders, pray at the site of the cave, and walk the path of faith where Paul James once knelt and prayed. "This is not about me," Tamuno would often say. "Always choose faith over fear." And so, the story of Kadorama lived on, not just in history books, but in the hearts of all who believe that faith can rebuild nations, and light can rise from darkness. With Boma now a leading figure in both the church and the community, girls who once hid in fear now found their voice. Programs for women's empowerment, literacy, and entrepreneurship bloomed under her leadership. Tamuno grew into a visionary leader. His story of survival, faith, and transformation inspired millions. He prioritized education, healthcare, and youth empowerment. He built roads into forgotten villages, modernized agriculture, and introduced clean energy initiatives, which attracted direct foreign investment to Kadorama, turning the once isolated village into a thriving hub of commerce and spiritual tourism. The world took notice. Tamuno received both national and international honors from the United Nations, the African Union, and world leaders. Yet, he remained humble, always attributing his success to the grace of God and the village that raised him. From the ashes of a haunted past, Kadorama has risen. A land once silenced by fear now echoes with song, commerce, and courage. Because one woman dared to seek her brother. Because one preacher obeyed the call. Because one elder believed in the light. And because one boy, once possessed, became a governor. Kadorama is no longer a place to hide. It is a place to build. A place to shine. A place where faith became the foundation of greatness. A statue was erected in honor of the three heroes who changed the course of history: Tamuno, the visionary leader; Boma, the fearless sister whose courage lit the way; Pastor Paul James, the man sent by heaven to break the yoke of darkness.